So I read an article this week by James Bedford, who writes on his Substack called Cultivate. And Cultivate is his inquiry into really what makes the most successful software engineering teams in the world. And the article was called "It's Okay Not to Know." And some of the points he made were around the difficulty that senior managers seem to find to confess that they don't know something, especially in the technical domain where they're expected to have the expertise. And but he also pointed to the value of that vulnerability, which is fundamental to building trust, and that's fundamental to team building. It reminds me of some of the early chapters in the 5 Dysfunctions of a Team, and which talks about the lack of vulnerability in teams where you don't trust each other, and therefore you don't create that glue that you can rely on when you need to commit to projects and bring results. So and it made me think about vulnerability, and I think one of the problems is that people confuse vulnerability with fragility. And I don't think vulnerability is like fragility. Fragility is, it's breaking under pressure, and it's it's being a snowflake. But vulnerability is it's something that we face when we challenge ourselves, when we grow, when we stretch ourselves. We're gonna discover areas where we need to build strengths. And if vulnerability isn't faked, then it can be the key to anti-fragility, to use Nassim Taleb's word to describe a system that actually gets stronger the more it's tested. And I think that vulnerability is the key to that. These videos, I think I'm stretching myself here, and I'm certainly feeling vulnerable at times in terms of my capabilities to talk coherently and instructively, I suppose. But when you admit to your ignorance or lack of skill in front of a colleague, you build trust, and the more senior you are, the more trust that vulnerability will build. But vulnerability takes courage. So that's certainly not fragility. I think fragility is when we actually deny our vulnerabilities. When we do that, we weaken ourselves. And trust itself is, building trust on the willingness to, of being vulnerable is in itself anti-fragile. We are social animals, and there are natural codependencies between us. We no man is an island. We can't work alone, and there's inherent power in networks, and that's the source to team building. Networks are our strength. And and to use an IT example, we have vulnerability scans and penetration tests on our applications and on our systems, so that we can find the vulnerabilities and deal with them. Netflix, for example, uses chaos monkeys to create catastrophic events and that and to look at how their systems can respond and adapt, and that actually makes them anti-fragile. So there are my thoughts on vulnerability actually being a key to anti-fragility. For workshops, coaching, and other services to measure and nurture a culture where engineering teams can thrive, please see my website at human-centric engineering.com.